everybody, it's Nicole Pierce, and I'm back for another Career Conversations with Nicole. I am super excited today. I have a friend on the call. His name is Trent Travers. How are you?
Hey, things are going good. Hello, everyone.
So the thing about Trent is he's from HLB Gross Collins, and they are super close to KSU. We have lots of alumni there. We love you guys. But for anybody that doesn't know who y'all are, why don't you just share a little bit about HLB and what you do there?
Okay, well, so HLB is a mid-sized accounting firm, and we offer tax and audit services, and we are part of the HLB international chain. So that means we're internationally known and doing this globally. And so a little bit about myself, I've been with HLB for 6 years now. I'm on the audit side, Audit Supervisor, and I've started with them from the groundwork on up, and that meaning coming in from the internship and moving on up and staying with the company all throughout. So it's a little bit about HLB, and we're based in the Bindings area, like Nicole mentioned, not too far from Kennesaw State. And we also do the majority of our recruiting at Kennesaw, so we're heavily involved at the campus.
For sure. Yes, they're one of our diamond partners. They've been supporting us for a very, very long time. They've been doing scholarships forever. I could ramble on and on. They've got a beautiful office right there in that Cumberland area too. So when we can actually go back to offices, I hope students will check you guys out. But if not, definitely check them out online. That's a good place to start. So today's topic, I think, is going to be fun, one that students ask me about all the time. And so the topic is tax versus audit. And I know students struggle with this, so I think it'll be fun for us to kind of unpack it. First question for today is, can you describe what other areas the students could work outside of tax and audit? And that's kind of a backwards question. But let's talk about what we're not going to talk about. How about that?
All right, outside of tax and audit, which are the main ones people tend to focus on, you also have different avenues you can get into. Say, for instance, you wanted to go straight to a private company and say, for instance, like Home Depot or, private, where you'll just be working as a staff accountant. That's usually where you would start and then work your ways up in private. Then we also have consulting. A lot of people may take an interest in that, where you're learning more about business and giving that consulting business advice to companies as opposed to the advisory services or tax. And then, and just thinking about it, there's also forensic accounting. That's something to look into. A lot of people that let me see it on movies, or say I want to be that person that follows the paper trail and catches criminals. So definitely that as well. And that even leads to law enforcement, where you have you can use your accounting degree towards a career with the FBI or sorts, if that gets your interest.
Well, let's dig into the actual two areas that we're going to talk about today, and kind of explain to the students first why you think tax and audit are the most popular areas or choices.
So the reason why I believe it's the most popular is because we have a lot of firms and we offer that service. So there's always going to be a high demand for tax services and audit services. Reason being that these are mandated. So we know that you always have to file your taxes if you're a company, and you're going to have to file a tax return. So there's always going to be need for those individuals. And we can say the same thing for audits. Those are either bank required mandated, where you have to get an audit. And so we're going to need people to fill those positions, and that's always going to be a need. So we know that firms tend to recruit pretty heavily to get individuals. So that's why I believe that's the most popular.
Yeah, I agree with you. Can you describe the different types of work, big picture for the two? And so you kind of touched on it already about how they have to have tax returns done. So that kind of does that. But dig definitely more into audit and what that means. I know students that are new to accounting have no idea. Okay,
so if we're talking about big picture, the type of work you'll be doing. So if we're thinking audits, we're thinking longer engagements. We're saying, all right, if you're going to go out and do an audit, typically what's going to happen is you don't finish an audit in 1 day or 2 days. Audit's going to take you about a month to 2 months, or even longer if you're talking about bigger Fortune 500 companies. Say, for instance, like Coca-Cola, there are stories where the audit just goes on for the whole year. You never really finish audit, as opposed to, say, for instance, with tax, you're going to be dealing with shorter engagements, because you think of a 1040, like your individual tax return.
Yep.
That can be done within a couple of hours, or if you're doing a corporation return, maybe 1 or 2 days. So I think the main difference we're seeing is the length of engagements, and also to add on to that, in order you're more so working on a team, not just yourself, another partner in charge, group of 2 or 3 people, or maybe more, compared to the tax side, where you can work a little bit more independently and get the same, get the work done. So
that's really fun and interesting. And I'm going to kind of unpack that a little bit of the fact that students, I hope you heard and can take away that some of that tax work will be a little bit more individual. I'm not saying it's alone. You're not alone in the process, but just a little bit more individual. And that audit is going to be more team-based. And that's kind of cool.
Right, definitely. And then, well, I don't want to jump ahead. Please
go ahead.
All right. So I see the next question is going a little bit more into detail about the daily task of both. So being an auditor, I can definitely share what it's like being on the the daily task you may have. For one, daily task, it's hard to say that because sometimes you just don't know what you'll be working on for that day, because as you know, you got deadlines, you got different things to meet. So you may come in with your head set on, I'm going to do this task and get it knocked out. But if something comes up, you have to be able to switch easily and adapt and work on what's necessary. But I would say being that there are longer engagements, your task would be, hey, maybe you're working on a section, like you'll be working on testing cash, and it may be able to done in 1 day or 2 days, and then you move on to another section. Like the daily task for maybe on the tax side would be, all right, you know what your schedule is going to be. You have X amount of returns that were scheduled to you for the week, and then you would log in and knock out the return, and then you would pass it on to the reviewer. They review it, give you any comments, and then it goes on to the next stage.
In that tax department, are they doing anything else other than returns? And this may be ignorant because I'm not an accountant.
Well, that is a good question, because now I'm speaking to my brain and see what else is going on. But so returns are the primary, but other than that, I know during the downtime there's tax planning. So if you're not doing the return, you're sending you're getting the planning done, where you're telling companies, hey, this is your expected tax liability, and this is what you're going to be expected to pay in for the year. Tax returns, corporation returns. I'm thinking what else. And there's also always the chance of one-off projects where, hey, a client may contact you and say, hey, we've had tax issues for the last several years, and we don't know where to start, withholding tax, state tax. Can you help us out? So, just kind of whatever the client needs, you'll be that person to go to.
Mm-hmm. So I like that. And the one part of that, tax students or students that are toying with tax, the planning side, to me, getting to help them strategize for their company to make good decisions sounds really cool too. So students, hope you heard that for sure.
And it's a benefit that you're providing to the company. So it's always seen in a positive light, like, hey, you're helping me plan towards my, tax savings. Maybe I could do something throughout the year to limit that tax liability, so I'm not paying as much out the year, and that's always going to put a smile on the client's face, saving money.
So on the flip side of that, does people look at auditors in a negative light?
I don't want to say negative because I am an auditor, but I will say being on that side, you are more of an expense to the company, something that that the company has to pay for compliance. So when seen in that light, it can be more of a, hey, I'm paying you guys. What are you providing for me? But the benefit is, as an auditor, as opposed to just auditing financial statements, you are able to have an inside view of that company's procedures, processes, and you may be able to help them improve their controls at the company and add a benefit to say, hey, maybe this isn't operating the best way in your AR department. And this will help you guys cut down your AR balance if you implement this. So you can add a benefit to the company still and make them excited to see you.
Well, can you tell the students, or what would you suggest, or how would you suggest that students try to choose between the two, and maybe use your own example? Like, how did you decide?
Okay, well, I definitely took an aptitude test before even getting into the accounting field. So I feel like that really, really helped out, because after taking it, it was saying, hey, you would be really good at in the accounting field based on your personality and your responses to the questions.
Oh,
And
wow.
then doing a little bit more research, I had to ask myself a few questions, which I encourage you all to ask yourself the same thing too. Like, all right, what kind of working style do I like? Do I prefer working on teams, or do I prefer working individually to get a task done? All right, and then you ask another question you want to ask yourself. Hey, do I enjoy traveling and going to different clients and interacting with them? Or would I prefer to be more so behind the scenes, still adding benefit, but not as much client interaction? So those are like two of the burning questions you need to ask yourself, because with audit, you're going to be doing more face-to-face with the client, traveling to their site, and maybe spending 1 week to 2 weeks at their office, at their place. So it calls for a lot more interaction, a lot more I don't want to say that tax has no personality, but you'll have to have a little bit more tact and be personable when interacting with the client, as opposed to if you have tax, you have more, where you're reporting to in the morning, what your task may be, and it's more streamlined for you.
I'd like to say that the skill sets of being able to come and present yourself can be learned, right? So
Yes.
The typical accountant isn't super outgoing like you, Trent. I mean, not everybody's that way, but some of them are naturally, so they'll probably easily go to audit. But I always like to tell students, even if you're not, if that's a skill you can learn, just like you can learn accounting, right?
Definitely can be learned, yes. The people skills can be picked up and used in your profession, definitely.
I'm going to touch on this a little bit more, but I'm going to pry a little bit harder. Is what if you end up choosing an area? So let's say they didn't do 2 internships, and this happens, right? Or they did 2 internships in the same area, and they did audit, and they thought that's where they wanted to be, and then they get to work full time, like they're in the job, and they're like, my gosh, this is not what I want to do. What do they do at that point?
First, I will say it happens. It happens a lot more than people may be led to believe. So I've seen it happen quite a few times during my time in Gross Collins. But this is what I encourage people to do. Once you've figured it out that it's not where you want to be, to go ahead and communicate that sooner than later. And the reason I say that is, say for instance, you're doing an audit and you're working full time now, and I would say you want to do it hopefully in that first year, because what you don't want to happen is you start getting more skills, building up your skill set in the audit industry, and say you move up to senior or supervisor. Now, if you're trying to make a change that late to go to tax, you have to start over, because they just don't transfer over. You can't just go from the audit supervisor to a tax supervisor, because you don't know the ins and outs, the rules and all that. So I want to say the sooner the better.
There's so many good things in here. That was probably the best advice of the day, by the way. Guys, I hope you heard that. The sooner you do it, the better, because I wouldn't have thought through this. I mean, it makes sense now that you said it, but if you move up in your career in one area and then you want to switch, like you said, the skills aren't going to transfer. So then you just go right back to the bottom, and then you're just kind of lost in misery. I love it. Oh my gosh, such great advice. Well, that is the end. That was my last question. I can't believe it. It goes by so fast. But I always want for our employers to give any last minute advice or thoughts to the students. So do you have any last minute thoughts for them today?
Some last minute thoughts. All right, if you're in school and taking classes right now, don't worry yourself to death about, the classes may be difficult and kicking you all around. But once you get out into the profession, I promise you that everything will all make sense and you're going to do great. Words of advice, I would say, just when you get out and you get to your employer, be all ears, open, hear what people have to say, take in all the experience you can get, and you're going to be a great career professional in either career path you choose, tax, audit, consulting, whatever it may be. Just get that experience and it will all work out.
I love it. Students, yes, eat this up. And please, guys, go check out HLB Gross Collins right now in this video. Go check them out. They are amazing. They love KSU students. So apply for anything they have open right now. Well, Trent, thank you for your time, and we will talk soon. Until then, bye.
See you later, guys.